What's going on, everybody? What's going on? I hope everyone is doing wonderful today. We got a lot to get into. GM, good morning, good night, wherever you are in the world. I appreciate you being here with me. We're going to have a good show today. Let me get my mic a little set up. I adjusted my desk a little bit. Let me know if y'all can hear me fine. You should be able to. Let me kick this mic up just a tad. How is that? I've adjusted the camera a little bit. I hope I look pretty, but no, I'm just joking. Let's see who's up in here. Okay. We got some people in here. We got some comments rolling from YouTube and X. Let me know, how are you doing today? I hope you're doing good. And before we get into my take on the markets, I want to get your take. Do you think the sell-off we're seeing now is short-lived, or do you think we're about to go into a deeper crash for maybe the stock market, Bitcoin? Let me know what you think. If you're over on YouTube, I appreciate you hitting the like button with this little thumb right here, one of these. Hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed, welcome to the Finance Freeman family. Join us. And if you're over on X, please just hit the little repost, maybe a quote post. Come on, let's join Freeman. Let's have a party. We do this every day at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then leave me some comments, and and we'll get to look through everything that we want to look for. I don't have anything in 2 hours. I've got a space I got to do. But other than that, I'm ready to rock and roll with the Finance Freeman family. So cheers. I bought this cup for myself. Made me feel good about myself. No, I'm just joking. My wife bought it for me for Father's Day a couple years ago, I think. But like I said, GM, yesterday, Bitcoin was rocking. Everything was rocking. We thought we were back. I warned you of a bull trap yesterday. I actually went short right after the space, which anyone that was, or right after the live, anyone that was in here for that knew I was probably going to do that. I'm almost getting over this cough, but market looks a little doopy loopy. But let's get into some things coming over here. BTC, basically everything's down. We don't have any outlier. And like I've been telling y'all on the crypto side of things, or we're going to get into the Qs here in a little bit. But on the crypto side of things, the only reason the only thing I've been trading is BTC. And when I say trading, that's, in and out, maybe a day trade, 2 days, because we haven't really had anything moving on its own. We had Bittensor Tau moving on its own a couple weeks ago, but everything's just been moving on the Bitcoin. So my take on it is I might as well just trade the most liquid asset that there is instead of trading these proxies of it, because all the altcoins are just moving with Bitcoin. And that's to be seen here because obviously, nothing else is moving. But something that is moving is oil. Are you long oil? Are you oil? What? Let me see if people start buying oil like they were buying gold, stacking gold and everything. But oil's going up. And as we talked about yesterday, one of the big fears with oil going up is that oil is one of the largest contributors to inflation. Okay. A lot of people think of inflation as just money printing and diluting the money supply, but oil goes into transportation, and transportation happens with everything that we have, even this cup of coffee. The cup itself, the coffee itself, it was all transported somewhere. And with oil going up, it makes everything go up. And the fear that we have is that with oil going up and inflation going up and unemployment slightly ticking up, that the Fed's not going to be able to cut rates to help the unemployment. The Fed's going to have to try to crush the inflation, which lowers any chance of a rate cut this year, possibly rate hikes this year, depending on how bad the inflation gets. Now, we know Kevin Warsh is coming in from the Federal Reserve, and he's appointed by Trump. So who knows what they're going to do. But if you're just looking at it from a traditional what the Fed should do standpoint, that's in my personal opinion. But guys, as always, before we get started, I just want to remind everybody, I am not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is financial advice, and always do your own research. I'm also not a political guy, really. My wife was talking to me. She said, Mike, why are you talking about politics? And, because I covered the stuff going on in Iran. We had a 4-hour live stream on Saturday. And the truth of the matter is, I don't really have that many political beliefs, right? I'm a man of faith. I'm a family man. But outside of that, the only thing I really care about in terms of politics is, how does it affect my money? How does it affect the markets? And so we've got to understand that what happens in the world, what happens in politics, does directly correlate with, our bags, our investments and things like that. So let me know what you think. Do you like me covering that stuff? Do you not? I'm here to give the people absolutely what they want. But so far, highlighting, there was Venezuela, there was Iran, and breaking news. Drum roll. Trump. Cuba is going to fall too, baby. We're just getting started. Oh man, it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, so we got oil spiking. I've told y'all that this is the NASDAQ, the Qs, QQQ. I told y'all yesterday that, or I've been saying this, that this is really the only chart I care about. Kind of looks like a rolling top. I expect it to drop. And I opened up a fairly large, about a borderline 6-figure position in SQQ, which is basically a triple leveraged short. So with the leverage, it's 6 figures, not just 6 figures on its own. But this short position, the reason I like this, and you can see it's been abiding by this trend line right here, right here, right here, and right here, is because of the fact that, global tensions. And I'm one that say, I believe the chart more than anything. I'm a technical analysis guy through and through. Asked me 4 years ago, I was not like that. But now I believe the chart 100%. I think that all these global things or news or headlines that happen, it just pushes the chart to do what the chart was already going to do. And so when I take a look at the Qs, I've seen some people try to argue a bull flag. That's not a bull flag. Like, this is a clear, to me, double top. Now, could it be done? Could it have went from, 635 down 7% and be done? It could. But we've been on a pretty big run since, what was that? October or April of 25, about a 58, 60% run. So even if we had like a 20% correction, that level right there at 505, a psychological level, would still be up, 26% from those lows. So, that's kind of what I'm expecting. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. This white line's actually my average price. I bought higher, I bought lower, but that's my average price on this trade. It's something that with those, it's not something I want to keep open super long term. Ideally, I would like to close it today. I would like to see a sell-off going into market close. If we just look at today, we started off low. We came up looking at the Qs. And like I said, if you're in crypto, no matter what you're in, the Qs matter. That's the NASDAQ. That's the techs. And yeah, so it'll affect everything. So basically, we started out down here. We opened down here. Or we opened like at 605, I think, something like that, about where we are now. We went all the way up, tried to challenge yesterday's high and failed, And so if we come and we close, at 600 or something like that, I'd keep it open. But my short-term target for that would be this trend line. And then long-term targets would be lower. It really just depends. I don't want to keep it open a long time if I'm, a little bit in profit, a little bit in loss, or even. But once I get into profit, then I can move my stop loss into profit, and then I'm, risk-free trade. So y'all know that's something I'm really big on, risk-free trading and things like that. Well, let's take a look at BTC real quick. So let me check the time. So yeah, this was yesterday during the stream, the tippity toppity. Okay. And I did end up opening a short. I ended up closing it down here. It was a little higher leverage than I typically do. But I could have kept it open. The bull case for this, if you take a look, we fell under the highs. So we were not able to flip that 72K into support. Now that was the tip wick of the candle. If we wanted to grab more of the bodies of these candles, we could come here and we're still below that. If you want to go right under that to this right here, so these and these, well, then that's what we're at now, right? So the bull case for BTC is that we hold this, or at a maximum, we come back and test this downward trend line. But ideally, I don't think you would want to drop under 60. I currently don't have any trades open BTC wise. But it wasn't that hard to tell. We were pegged out of the RSI, as I was showing yesterday with this line. We ended up going above it a little bit, but then we got, a reset of it. And this is the 4-hour time frame. So we got that. We'll see if we break underneath that on the RSI. I think it's a good time to say shout out to our stream sponsor, Blofin. That is who this is. This is where I do all of my trading. If you are interested in an exchange, a new exchange, there will be a link down below in the YouTube video. There will be a link in the comments for the live stream on X. Also, if you look at my page, it'll be very easy to find it. They've got incentives, discounted trading fees, stuff like that for people that use my link. And they've been a very good partner. And without them, I wouldn't be able to do all these live streams and things like that. So I really, really appreciate it. We're in talks with a couple other people to maybe bring another sponsor on. It wouldn't be an exchange. It would be like a wallet or something like that. But anyways, I just want you to know, anything that I ever support, anything I ever talk about, it's because I truly believe in it. It's because I truly utilize it and things like that. But yeah, obviously never financial advice. But like I said, if you are looking for something, there will be a link somewhere that you could find fairly easily. Shorts are shorting right now. If we look at the funding rate, we're negative 0.0088%. Okay. And so that means that shorts are heavy right now. And let me take a drink. I made a nice cappuccino. Maybe we can get an espresso sponsorship for the stream. What do you guys think? Or I'll take an energy drink sponsorship. Celsius, maybe. They're a little too carbonated for me, though. But let's go over. My beautiful wife. Hi, handsome. Hey, mama. What is this? Banner cycle. Okay, at first I thought this was like some kind of fake comment. Like if you look under my videos, there's all these comments like, oh, this crypto has had a deal with Elon or and I'm like, I spent all day trying to delete the dang things. Banner cycle is real. All billionaires take it seriously. Smart money we're unloading to retail buffoons for the last 2 years. It's not just Buffett while telling fool to buy they are liars. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Banner cycle is not something that I'm personally knowledgeable on or familiar with that theory. So yeah, let me know that. Let's go back to the Qs. We're starting to feel that. So this is the daily candle. So when we're looking at this is all day today. We can go to a lower time frame. So it's very important. We've got big data tomorrow. We've got job numbers coming out. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see a sell-off into close today, even potentially a sell off in the morning. Um, we have to see how the numbers look. GDP data has recently came out and looked extremely strong. The economy actually looks strong from a numbers perspective, which is a little surprising to me. I know a lot of people are hurting out there. I know liquidity is tight, but overall, the numbers have looked pretty good. And so, what are we looking for tomorrow for job numbers? Sometimes if job numbers come in bad, markets would pump. And this is the weird psychology part of everything, because if you start thinking about it, good job numbers do what? If there's good job numbers, what does that mean? It means, okay, well, the economy is probably okay. People have a job, people will be able to buy products, the consumer economy keeps rolling. On the flip side, if job numbers are good and inflation's a little high, well, then there's like zero reason for the Federal Reserve to cut rates, right? And so if job numbers are bad, then people are like, oh, the Fed's going to cut rates. That'll bring liquidity in. And it's like this, backwards ideology you just have to wrap your head around. And it takes a while to really understand how markets think and what the consensus is for people. Here was an hourly candle from open this morning. I would be interested to watch this to see if we regain it on the Qs or lose it. And like I said, my SQQ, it's basically an inverse of this. So the charts that we're looking at, this is just a triple leveraged short version of it. And don't recommend doing what I do. I got a very, very high risk tolerance. But I'm not the only one that thinks we may be rolling. And my timeline for everything is still approximately the same. I think Bitcoin bottoms September, October. And, I think the stock markets would bottom this year, potentially. I'm not expecting a 50%, catastrophe, but 20%. I've been prepared for it since November of last year for my retirement account, my IRAs and stuff. I went pretty much all cash in them around November timeframe, which has turned out to do pretty good for me. And it's something it used to be a 401k. I'm transferring it to an IRA, and but I'm really looking forward to being able to buy individual stocks. I could never do that in my 401k, but now that I've converted to IRAs, I'll be able to. And so I'm excited about that. I want to look for Tesla. I'm not going to be hopping into Nvidia and all those. What worries me about the Nvidia stuff is that, Nvidia makes their money from selling chips, right? And there's always going to be chips needed. I bought some RAM memory for my computer. I needed some more. I have currently 32 gigs of RAM in my computer. And while I went and I bought this, which was just the same thing I ordered 2 years ago. And I originally bought it and it was like $350 or something. And when I bought it, it was like $450. So I bought these and stuff and put them in. And if anyone's good, I put them in and my computer went all wonky. So I don't know what I did wrong, but I need to try it again. But anyways, I went and looked a couple days ago, and that's been the best investment I've made in the last 6 months. I spent like $450 on them, and I could sell them for like $1,200 now. And so there's a huge demand right now for AI data centers and things of that nature, right? Everybody's wanting to have their own AI agents, their Apple, little Mac Mini, Clawbot, all this stuff. But are these earnings we're seeing from Nvidia, are these going to be short-lived? And I'm not saying, a quarter or two from now, but a couple years out. Like at a certain amount of time, you would expect the AI build out to be to a certain point that it slows down, or at least stagnates, or right now the build out's like this, right? Where's my camera? Right now the build out's like this, right? But I would expect it to plateau out. And so Man, I don't like my overlay. It's kind of a little wonky. Let's see if I can fix this. Okay, that looks better. I'll leave it like that. Now there's no overlap. But yeah, so it's not something I'm interested in investing in, $4.5 trillion market cap. I've went over this. It's 4 times the size of Bitcoin, twice the size of the entire crypto market. But I am interested in a lot of this next wave of things. As we go through what's going on in Iran, I think that a lot of this is testing a lot of stuff. There was this new laser thing that was used, and when you start hearing about these rumors that the United States is low on munitions and different things, and then you start seeing these drones that they're starting to use and things like that, I think there's going to be a really big buildup in the military. So personally, I would like to look for up and coming, drone companies, things like that. There's one I invested Kraken recently. You can't get it on Robinhood. It's not a part of the NASDAQ, but it was cool. And things like that. But also robotics. I'm bullish on just overall Tesla. I don't care what the PDE ratio is. I'm long Elon Musk until the sun sets on me. And but Benjamin Cohen, he's basically called this entire cycle right. The only thing he's been wrong about this cycle was he gave Ethereum a chance to make a higher high, and it didn't happen. But Benjamin Cohen's been straight on. And I think that, he's right a lot of the time. Now, sure, he's been wrong before, but he says the SPY or SPX continues. This is the S&P 500. So top 500 United States companies, which is different than what I'm trading, but they're all going to move about the same. SPX continues to be weak as the market has not really durable move in high months. And we're just at peak liquidity tightening, guys. I mean, it's really what it is. When we look, we're starting to lose that low open this morning right there. And this trade is officially in profit. That's good. But so I think that there's some good opportunities coming up in the markets. I really do. We just have to be patient. We just have to be patient. This conflict in the Middle East is dragging out. The price of oil is now over $80 a barrel, as we can see right here. It broke out of this long-term trend line. I don't know if I can draw on here. Let me see if I can. No, I can't. But just imagine a line right here, right? Boom, 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 boom. So a clear breakout of a downtrend. If you want to look at this, you've got resistance right here, 82, 88, 90, 116. But Iran came out and said oil is going to be 200 a barrel, So we'll see if that actually plays out. But like I said, that'll lead to inflation if it does. So all eyes on the Qs, the tech stocks, because that's what Bitcoin follows. And as you can see, Bitcoin's following it pretty perfectly right now. And so, yeah, we're getting into some altcoins in a minute. There is an announcement coming out tonight at 4:30 Eastern time, which is 3:30 my time, which is 30 minutes after the stock market closes. So it's a little interesting. 30 minutes after the stock market closes. If you look at all these other meetings that they've had, they've been at the beginning of the day, okay, talking about stuff, and the market does good. This one is after hours. So there are some rumors going around. Why is it after hours? Are they afraid it's going to impact markets? I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think it's probably just a timing thing, because if it was the case, then they would have waited until tomorrow after hours to have the announcement, Friday, the same way they did last week. But we, like this guy said, they're doing it after hours, something bad to announce. They have thoroughly shredded the market over the last month. Why spare it today? Yeah, all eyes on that. But you know, I think the markets have mispriced a lot of things, which typically doesn't happen. Typically the markets are on pretty good, but I think that the markets have been pricing in a quick resolution of everything. And it's just not what we've seen. You know, what's the odds it's over by the end of this month? A 13% chance. What's the odds it's over by the end of next month? A 23% chance. What's the odds it's over by June 30th of this year? A 39% chance. And what's the odds it's over by the end of the year? A coin toss, you know? And so the markets, I think they were bullish yesterday because the president came out and said that we're going to insure or help insure, vessels over or vessels for the Strait of Hormuz and everything. But the fact of the matter is that everything's up. Heating oil, gasoline, natural gas, Brent oil, crude oil, everything's up. Everything's up. And even though the strait is officially kind of open, or they're trying to keep it open, you could see that vessels going through there have dropped substantially, absolutely substantially. And so there's no quick resolution for this. This is an oil refinery in Bahrain that was struck, right? This is going to hurt overall production of oil. LNG shipping rates surge from 40K to 300K per day. So that's a 5X. This isn't in the price of liquid natural gas, LNG. This is in the shipping. Okay. So just imagine if the price to ship, my coffee, did a 5X. I'm going to feel that. Like that cost has to come from somewhere. Here's the cost of shipping crude oil. You could see doubled in percentage, 10% to 20% of the price of the crude oil. Freeman Lie, what's happening, buddy? What's happening, my brother? Dom's a really good guy. He's a part of one of my favorite meme coins of all time on Sui Lofi. And we're going to be back. We're going to run the Yeti back. When it's time, we run the Yeti back, brother. But yeah, oil, definitely. Let's see what else, what other odds they have. So right now, the next supreme leader is odded to be the old one's son, who Trump called a lightweight. And then, this is basically when if the goal really truly is regime change, then this is what's going to dictate the previous odds that we looked at of when it's going to be over. And you could see 39% that the regime falls by June 30th, which is halfway through this year. Let's see. Yeah, December 31st, 51%, right? So the same exact odds if we take a look at it. And so I just think that the markets have mispriced how long this is potentially going to go on for. And the number one thing that it, has to do with, like I said, is oil. And when oil goes up, inflation goes up. When inflation goes up, no more rate cuts. And so that's kind of what we need to look at. But let's pivot a little bit. Let's look at something a little funny. Maybe not funny in the meaning of what it should be, but I want to go through this dude that was arrested who stole a whole bunch of BTC from the U.S. government. And it was a Zach XBT. investigation, and let's go over it. I think it's interesting. Good old agua. Fiji water. Only Fiji. No, I'm joking. I drink whatever comes out of the water cooler. I don't know what it is. I'm not bougie. I'm not like that. Okay, let's see. Best thing a content creator can have is a fan and a light that is controlled by a remote. I'll just say that. Okay, meet the threat act. Like, this guy's such an idiot. Okay, like we've got to go through this. One, stealing from the government. Yeah, you got to be pretty dumb. Like, I make sure I pay all my taxes. I try not to be $1 over, let alone getting a lot of BTC from them. But let's zoom in on this. Meet the threat actor John Lick, okay, who was caught flexing 20 mil in a wallet directly tied to a 90 mil plus in suspected thefts from the U.S. government in 2024 and multiple other unidentified victims. So if you look, that was the contact information. This was the wallet. Okay, it had 2,000 ETH, about 6 mil worth. Here was some Tron. This was January 23rd. Zach said, earlier today, John got in a heated argument with another threat actor. So these are basically two scammers going back and forth about like who's the best scammer in a group chat to see who had more funds in crypto wallets. In the this is known as ban for ban. However, the entire interaction was fully recorded. And yeah, and so this person recorded the entire interaction. In part one of the recording, Drayton mocks John. However, John shares screenshots of Exodus wallet, which shows the Tron address. So the address was there. So you could go back and look at the address.
Is this supposed to be like an honest reaction to him only?
Of how they got it, you know? Like, how dumb do you have to be to do something like this, right? In part two of the recording, Drayton continues to mock John, while another 6.7 mil worth of ETH is moved into the wallet address below. After ban for ban was done, John had moved 23 mil total to that. The recording addresses clearly shows he controls both of them. Yada, 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 yada. Okay. Then this investigation, 20 mil in government assets moved to new addresses. So, you know, Zach did his thing, found out. So it ends up being this dude. Like, I mean, look at this kid. Look at him. And then he started mocking. Watch that your tax dollars paid for. Chrome hearts, 2 watches. Like, just what an idiot, right? And so then he started mocking Zach, and he even like sent dust to his wallet, to Zach's wallet. Like, the kid's got to be on drugs or something bad. Like, I just pray for him. He's such a dumb kid. But so the end of Zach's article, John was arrested in the Caribbean yesterday as a direct result of my investigation. In late 26, I exposed how John stole 46 mil in seized crypto assets from the U.S. government by abusing access at CMDSS, his father's company. So his father's company held a U.S. Department contract to, I guess, hold these assets. And John then taunted Zach XBT multiple times via his Telegram channel and dust attacked in my public wallet with the stolen fund. Thanks for the last laugh, John. And you can see Cash Patel. Last night, John, a U.S. government contractor who allegedly stole more than 46 mil in cryptocurrency, from the U.S. Marshal Service was arrested on the island of Saint Martin by the French Premier Elite Tactical Unit. Look at all this. Look, he's got UB keys, which are hardware keys. I don't know if those kind of look like wallets. It kind of looks like a Trezor wallet. What up? Dumb kid, man. Who knows? Like what did Bubble Map say? Shortly after your first post, he launched a meme coin on Pump Fund and live streamed it on Telegram, fully unhinged. How did he think this would end? He launched a meme coin called Lick. Wow. GM, brother, GM. This guy's coded. This guy's cooked. Dude's done for. Yeah, dude's absolutely cooked. Let's see what's going on. Q's trying to rally back a little bit. That trades at about break even or whatever. I'm interested to see, going in the last hour of close, if we get a pretty hard sell-off. It'd be nice. We're getting a good little pump now, though. Let's see if there's any news that came out. U.S. oil prices officially surged above $80 a barrel. 45% since December. Man, we should have been buying that. It's official. The U.S. has now invaded Iran and says the war will go on till September. I mean, guys, this isn't going to end quick. Kuwait cuts oil processing at its refineries as Hormuz is blocked. I mean, guys, it's Cuba's going to fall. Trump straight will be held over. Like, people don't know what to believe, The U.S. has spent $5.58 billion on the ongoing war with Iran. About $1 billion a day. Dang, the Dow Jones fell 1.1% on the day. What's oil doing? Does oil drop a little bit? No. But look at that. I mean, $5. I mean, if oil goes above 100, economy's cooked a little bit. If it goes to 200 or anything like that, it'd be crazy. But yeah, oil's kind of a lagging thing too, right? It's like, because sure, the shipments are blocked off and all of that from the Strait of Hormuz, but people still have reserves that you can use and things like that. But once those run dry or start running dry and there's nothing coming in and production's halted all over the place, I mean, prices going to go up. You can't control it forever. Wow. Kristi Noem is out as Homeland Security. This is the space I'm going to co-host in a little bit. Trump on the verge of firing Kristi Noem. Dang, that was a good one. I actually did a prediction on Robinhood just because I have funds there that I did. Who would be out of the Trump administration? I actually put Howard Lutnick because of everything that had been going on with the files and all of that. Now I ended up buying it for like 30 cents and I closed it around 51 cents or something. But Christy Nome was right there too. Oh, that's right. There was also rumors that her and Corey Lewandowski was together. I wonder if that's part of it. Wow. Like this was a 14% chance yesterday. What happened? I'm pleased to announce that the highly respected United States Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Mark Wayne Mullen, will be the United States Secretary of Homeland Security effective March 31st. The current secretary, who has served us well and had numerous and spectacular results, will be moving to be special envoy for the Shield of Americas, our new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. So there you have it, guys. Christy Nome is out as Department of Homeland Security, but she is not leaving the Trump administration. So I guess I would have been wrong if I would have bet leaving the administration. Let me... sorry guys, whenever I'm doing these, if I have something time sensitive, I try to send the timestamp to my clipper guy. Great guy. Okay, so she's out. Hello, BSV Shell. What's up, buddy? How are you doing? You know, people get mad. They're like, oh, you had BSV up? It's like, dude, I don't have anybody up. Anybody that wants to come talk, you are more than free to come talk about stuff. And we've got that full interview out. I think it was I posted on YouTube. I think he had some interesting points, you know. I wasn't very knowledgeable on BSV before a few weeks ago. And I think he had some really interesting points about how the Bitcoin we know today is not the Bitcoin that was released by Satoshi. And, you know, I do have a lot of fears about BTC, like y'all have heard me talk about. I mean, the entire base layer generates less than $200,000 a day in fees. So in a few weeks, we have, or in a few years, we will have 0.7 BTC as a block subsidy. And so price obviously has to go up a decent amount. Didn't you end up buying it? Yeah, I've got a little bit of BSV. Yeah, not a lot, but yeah, I got a little bit. It's very hard to get though. I'll say that. And just because I do something, guys, like I said, I am not a financial advisor, so don't listen to me. But you see, I try to be respectful. Guys like this, hello, BSV shill. And then I'm still respectful. It's all good. Thanks for the view. Let's see what else is cooking. LNG shipping rates surge. Yeah. The U.S. Pentagon has formally notified Anthropic that has deemed the company a supply chain. That's crazy. U.S. Heating oils jumped 10%. What's oil doing? Yep, still over 80. Qs can't hold any pump. Short still printing. Bitcoin still dropping. What's gold doing? Yeah, this level is a pretty important level. I actually like silver more than gold. Not like from a jewelry perspective, but from an investment perspective, I think there's a lot more use cases for silver now with data centers and chips and things like that. But that's what I like about Blofin. I mean, they've got everything. Like even they got like Circle, equity stocks. So like I said, if anybody wants a new exchange, you're more than welcome to use the link down below. They are the official stream sponsor. RSI, like, man, was anyone here? Let me know. Was anyone here a couple weeks ago when we were talking about this, when it was like $55 dollars, and now it's up double? Whales are accumulating BTC. Why is the price still dropping? Because Bitcoin is viewed as a tech stock. And the Qs, which is the NASDAQ, is dropping. And that's why I have a short on the Qs, the NASDAQ right here. And so, yeah, it's viewed as a tech stock. I think I have the theory that Bitcoin is a store of value, to me personally, right? But obviously the market doesn't see it at that yet. But then again, you look at something like gold, it's been around forever. BTC is very, very young. Now, I do think there is some problems that Bitcoin has to solve. Bitcoin has to be able to generate fees on mainnet long term to be able to at least be at the level it is now. If hash rate starts dropping a lot, security potentially, gets diminished and things like that. But, BTC really needs, if they don't want to be what Satoshi originally had it, originally Satoshi in the white paper, peer-to-peer electronic cash, right? That's what the Bitcoin white paper says. Well, that's not what Bitcoin is nowadays. Bitcoin is not a peer-to-peer cash. Like there's very few mainnet transactions. And in fact, it's became a very heavily perp derivative market. And so if it's not going to be viewed as a peer-to-peer cash or be utilized as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, as it was in the Satoshi white paper, and if it truly is going to be a store of value, well, then the world needs convinced that it's a store of value. And we're not there yet. I hope we do get there. I hope we do get there, that it's perceived as a store of value, but we're not there yet. But either way, there's still, we still need fees on the base net. Like if there's no fees hardly on the base network, then what's going to keep us secure? And if the hash rate drops and say there's people like Sailor or say the US government adopts it or El Salvador, well, what if they start mining to try to keep the network up? Well, then it becomes centralized, right? And so you're not decentralized. So I think, if you go back and look at BTC, the history of BTC and fees, the best time for it was when there was ordinals, and that's what all the Bitcoin OGs didn't like. They didn't want spam or anything like that. But that's when there was the most fees for the BTC layer one, was during ordinals and things like that. And so yeah. After a couple crypto cycles, I'm not convinced in any of these narratives. Yeah, I mean, I think the next wave for crypto is tokenization of everything. Like I think everything's coming on chain. We just have a little problem of what's the correlation. Like Ethereum, Solana, XRP, BNB. Okay, that's fine. But when you get into some of the tech stuff, like for instance, if we take a look at Ondo, for instance, where is it even at? Man, it's all the way down at 50. When you look at Ondo, it's a governance token. Well, what does that mean? What does governance mean to the average person, and why do they care? Because I know since the beginning of 2025, I've heard that Ondo's tokenized a ton of stocks, but it hasn't correlated to the token, right? Now, maybe the Ondo Foundation, the company behind Ondo, maybe they're printing money. It's no different than like the pump fund coin, in my opinion. So that's one thing I try to do on this channel. And if you're watching over on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. And I try to give an honest look at everything. Is there correlation in between token and what they're working on? Or is it just vaporware? And the problem is we have a lot of vaporware, One thing I do like is like Bittensor Tau, decentralized artificial intelligence, I think is very important. I think there will be a time when the world demands it. When you look at how powerful artificial intelligence is and you have a handful of companies that are, at the top of the stock market with earnings, they control that black box of artificial intelligence. I think there's a demand for decentralized artificial intelligence. And then also, I've seen the guy that made OpenClaw come out and say somebody mentioned Bitcoin in the Telegram or in the Discord, and he banned them. And it's like you're going to have blockchain crypto for AI agents to do micro transactions amongst one another. You're not going to, put a credit card information in and let it, Visa handle all that or whatever. I mean, that's funny junky to me. I mean, that's not going to happen. But yeah, we got to figure out what's all the vaporware and what actually has real use cases. And so that's why I was so big on Circle, like I've been screaming since it was 50 something bucks, is because that's the company behind Circle, the stable coin. And that's real demand, real use case. Let's go look at some of the altcoins and see if they broke out. Tau still just in this structure that it had. Dang, it pumped 51% almost from the high. I think I overshot it on the top a little bit, but still, that's a lot. And now it's just like we're coiling up for a move. Just which way is that move going to go? And like I said, nothing's moving on its own right now. And so it's just all going to follow Bitcoin. But to your point right here about narratives, like the problem is we've had in crypto forever, we've just had a whole bunch of hype driven speculative narratives. We haven't had a whole bunch of application or a whole bunch of real world use case. It's all been speculative. Oh, what's AI going to do? What is, privacy going to do? But a lot of it's not being implemented necessarily. And until that happens, is Circle price correlated to BTC? No. Circle is a stable coin. Circle is the company behind USDC. USDC is the number 2 stable coin in the world behind Tether. The difference between Tether and USDC is founded in the United States. USDC is backed by Coinbase. USDC is regulated. It follows everything that was under the Genius Act last year, which means one-to-one backing by U.S. Treasuries. Stable coins are the play for U.S. dollar dominance around the world. Okay. The more stable coins that there are, that's a buying of U.S. Treasuries. And if we look at U.S. Treasuries, they've been being sold off by other countries around the world. And so I think that's why the president is saying it's such a big deal to get this passed. And, they had earnings that were through the roof. So ironically, over the next 2 years, the most bullish crypto narrative is the crypto that is supposed to stay at $1 and not move at all. And it's not in the actual crypto part of it, but it's on the stock market side of things. And so how they make money is obviously from some fees and things like that. But they're holding, there's 75 billion worth of USDC out there. Currently, if you hold USDC in your wallet, you don't get any reward, right? But they have it backed by short-term US Treasuries. So they're making 3% on this 77 bill, right? And so then what Coinbase is arguing for and what it sounds like is going to happen, the president came out yesterday or the day before saying that, hey, we're going to implement this, that the big banks are fighting it, is for stable coin yield to be had. And so if we look at what Trump said the other day, I don't know if I bookmarked it. Let me see. But I'll go over. But he basically said big banks have been fighting this and that we've got to get it passed. Let me right here. The Genius Act is being threatened or undermined the banks. Okay. Threatened and undermined by the banks. That is unacceptable. So the Genius Act was actually last year, but it included stablecoin yield. And so he's saying that the banks are hitting record profits and I'm not going to allow them to undermine our powerful crypto agenda. And so the big problem right now is Coinbase wants to offer yield to people that have stable coins. Okay. So if you opt in, meaning you agree to this, then Coinbase could lend out your USDC and pay you 4%, 5% interest on it. Okay. Remember, these coins are backed 1-to-1 by US treasuries. And what the banks are saying, well, hey, if you do lending, you've got to be regulated by a bank. But the US dollar banking system is completely different. It's fractionalized lending. I've said this time and time again. If you give the bank $100, they're going to keep $10 of it and they're going to lend out 90. And so it's totally different. It's a totally different product, even though it's backed by US dollars. And I think the banks feel threatened. I think this is the first opportunity we really have to break into the traditional financial sector and disrupt something. And as he said right here, the bank should not be trying to undercut the Genius Act or hold the Clarity Act hostage. They need to make a good deal with the crypto industry because that's what's in the best interest of the American people. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So I hope that the Clarity Act gets passed. I think it'll open the floodgates to a lot of investment into crypto overall. Let's see here. This is about the replacement of the of Kristi Noem.
We do indeed have some breaking news. This comes a day after a difficult couple of days on Capitol Hill in both the House and the Senate for Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary. She is being replaced. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen is now going to take over her job. The president making the announcement on Truth Social just a short time ago. He writes, quote, "I am pleased to announce that the highly respected United States Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Mark Wayne Mullen, will become the United States Secretary of Homeland Security effective March 31st of this month, of this year. The current Secretary, Kristi Noem, who has served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border, will be moving to be special envoy for the Shield of the Americas."
Huh. Interesting. I'm getting about 3.5% yield on Coinbase, and it's not FDIC insured. Yeah, but the difference is the stable coins are backed 1-to-1 by short-term U.S. treasuries. You know, when you get yield at a bank, first of all, it's a couple things. If you're getting 3.5% on Coinbase, you opted into that. Okay, they didn't just hold your USDC and automatically do it for you. You have to opt in. The difference is if you go to a bank and you give them $100,000, they're going to automatically lend out 90K of it. They're not going to ask you. They're not going to do any of that. That's the fractionalized banking system. That's why there's FDIC insurance on that, because it's not backed 1-to-1. It's a fractionalized lending service. And I've went over that. I had a cool video that we played before. But yeah, it's just totally different products. But I think the key behind it all is in the fractionalized banking system, you don't opt into that. You're a part of it automatically by putting your money in the bank. Whereas if you're getting yield at something like Coinbase, you opt into it, right? So you have to agree to it, which means you're acknowledging there's some form of risk. and things like that. And so I'm pro Coinbase, pro all of that. Look, oil continuing. Waiting patiently for 49K BTC. Yeah, let's break down the BTC chart a little more from a macro perspective. So if we just want to do a little TA, let me move this out of the way real quick. We can always move that up later. And this is over on Blofin. I can add a QR code if anyone's interested. Hey, why'd it pop up on the other side? I like it on this side. Okay. Let's do a little bit of technical analysis. So if you just wanted to call this a bear flag, nice and simple, breakout point right there, takes us to 43K BTC. Okay, nice and easy. All right, let's do that. Change this green. All right, so that's a little nice and easy thing. If we zoom out a little bit and we know the last bear market, I think we bottomed at, Blofin was new, but I think it bottomed around what, 16,000? Was it 13,000? Something like that. Like, people are like, we didn't have a bull run. I'm like, dude, what do you mean we didn't have a bull run? If you 7'd extra money, you'd be happy, even if you didn't catch all of it. Even if you caught it right here and sold early, that's still a 3.5x if you got in late and sold early. But anyways, so about 16K. Let's just call it 16K for the sake of this exercise. So let's go down 15.8. That's fine. Close enough. Okay. And so if we come over here, you could see we hit the 618 level. We swept all this liquidity back from previous cycle all-time high. I mean, we didn't break it. We didn't break under it, but I mean, we got a bunch of, we left a little meat on the bone, like when you eat a chicken wing and you leave a little bit on the bone. We left a little bit on the bone, but not a crazy amount, right? And so what's interesting about this 786 fib level is it lines up with a lot of other technical analysis. And I think whenever I made this bear flag that I was showing you, I didn't really even take all of it, because when this broke down, that's really where we should start measuring the move. And so if you take that and you measure that there and you take it to the breakout point, look, it's almost like magic where it brings us to. So it brings us to sweeping this liquidity. And so for me personally, I wouldn't want to get too greedy. Like, I mean, the bottom could be in, but I don't think so, just because we haven't seen stocks move yet. And like I said before, I don't think that what everyone thinks has been happening has been happening. Everybody was like, hey, how come Bitcoin's not going to all-time high when everything else is? And it's not that Bitcoin was moving on its own necessarily. I just think Bitcoin moves first. I think that Bitcoin feels tight liquidity more than any other asset. And so I think it's the first to fill it. I think stocks are about to fill it. And so I also think BTC will bottom a little sooner. Now, guys, I could be completely wrong, right? But if we're just looking at this from a chart perspective, this is the TA, the stair step down. And so anywhere it's going to be kind of a broad region, but you see the high back here, this high, and also this low, and also this resistance level. So let me zoom that up a little bit and grab this. You see you have this high right here, you have this support right here, and you also have this, right? Those levels aren't going to be without some kind of buying pressure, I don't think. And so I wouldn't want to get too greedy. I am looking to buy some BTC. But basically anywhere in this region to me. And in the middle of our bull flag, I'll bring that up right here. Let's put some text. I said bull flag, I meant bear flag. Yeah. So that line is 43.7. I just want to put that because I don't like to leave fibs up on my chart. I like to draw them just to show people, but I don't really like to leave the fibs up necessarily. So I'll put this that way. I know that's the bull flag target or bear flag target, and the 786 fib level is 39.3. So 39.3. Clear these levels out. Leave that there. But for now, we did break out of this. So we just have to see what happens with the tech stuff, I think. Go to the daily on the Qs. Pretty much from the high, we're currently down 1.5%. So let's see what happens going into close here in a little bit. This trade's up a little bit right now. What about oil? Look at that. Oil just vertical. Climbing. Christy Gnome clip is ready to post, boss. Appreciate it. I'll post it right after stream. Thank you, sir. He's the man. I tell you what. Works with me all day to bring you guys the best content that we could possibly bring y'all. We're a team. Content team. And he's very creative. He has a lot of creative ideas. We'll watch your show. Kurt normally provides tons of info so you can judge for yourself, but watch how the comments will only be personal attacks and never disprove the tech, microtransactions at scale. And it's about BSV. I don't know. I think it's interesting, especially because a lot of people don't know about it. Traders selling Russian Urals at premium of 4 to 5 for Brent delivery. Russia says it will do everything possible to make U.S.-Iranian military operation.
National community.
Oh, wow. Let's listen to this. My wife's from Russia, actually. I've been to Russia 5 or 6 times. I'll try to find some pictures and show y'all of me in Moscow and me in Banyas and all that stuff over in Russia. Beautiful place, beautiful people.
Our strategic partners, and we'll continue to maintain dialogue with these countries, and we'll do our best to, including with other countries of the international community, in the United Nations Security Council, and the United Nations General Assembly. We'll do everything to create an atmosphere that will make this operation impossible. For our strategic partners, and we'll.
That's kind of the fear of all this. Like, what if Russia does get involved? You know, I've said for a while, this whole problem with oil, this whole thing going on with Iran, it don't have anything to do. I mean, it does have stuff to do with Iran, but I think this is 4D chess being played right now. I think Venezuela didn't have anything to do with narcotics or Venezuela. You know, I'm sure it had a little bit to do with it. Cuba, same thing. I think it all has to do with limiting. Like China doesn't have any oil. They buy all their oil. They buy 85% of Iranian oil. The other oil they were buying came from Venezuela. I think this is all about, putting a tightness on China's ability for energy. And, if you look, they've tried to do the same thing with the United States with rare earths. Do you think that the crypto community is suppressing BTC is the same suppression happening with Caspa? No. I think the BSV stuff is like, there was forks. So you had Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin Cash was a fork off of Bitcoin, and then BSV was a fork off of Bitcoin Cash, right? And I think, if you go back to the Adam Back days and all those days where they were very prevalent, with the block stream and everything, I think it was just financial incentives mainly to make Blockstream a company and be able to bring revenue into that. That's what I think. I don't think there's really suppression happening with Caspa. I truly don't. I think that Caspa is a great blockchain. I love it. I think it has a ton of potential, but right now it doesn't have a ton of use cases. You can't program tokenized stocks on it. You have to use L2s for any kind of coin, really. So there's just not real use case. I mean, look at the volume, 17 million in volume, a 2% volume to market cap ratio. It's just very low demand. I went to Ethereum Denver and I talked to a lot of developers and I asked them, hey, what do you think about Caspa? And I'm not kidding. About 9 of them said, well, what's that? And one of them said, oh, I knew about Caspa, but I thought it was like went to zero or something. And so the truth of the matter is everyone's in their own circle. If you're a Bitcoin maxi, you're a Bitcoin maxi. If you're all in building on Ethereum, guess what? You're all in on Ethereum. If you're in the BNB ecosystem, you're in there. Solana, if you're in the Tron ecosystem, you're in there. There's people that are diehard Cardano. So I don't think there's any coordinated suppression, anything like that. One thing I see is that, well, how come places haven't listed it? And like I said, our sponsor is Blofin, and I talked to them about it, and they told me how expensive it was to integrate spot TAL. Derivative futures, that's easy. It's fake essentially. It's like paper. That's all these derivative markets. It's not spot integration, but integrating a chain in spot is actually difficult and expensive for these exchanges. And it's a lot easier to list a Solana meme coin because it's just another Solana coin, or to list a Ethereum meme coin because it's just another ERC20 coin. There's nothing special about it. The integration's already been done. And so when you look at this from a business perspective, 17 million in volume. Okay, how do exchanges make their money? Off of fees. And so if it's going to cost a lot for a Coinbase or for something like that to integrate it into their systems, then it might not be a good business decision. I've said time and time again, especially because Caspa doesn't pay, and so things cost money and things are businesses and you have to make business decisions. And so I don't think there's any coordinated effort. I know our Caspa community would love to think there is, right? Like it's us against the world kind of thing, but I don't think that's true. I just think there's not volume. I mean, look, this is 17 million volume, right? Let's just do an exercise. Let's go down and look at Render. 45 million volume. So Render's slower market cap and over double the volume as Caspa. Let's do another exercise. Let's scroll and just click this stacks. Okay. 13 million in volume. So this is less than Caspa, but not much less. It's half the market cap as Caspa and about 7 million less volume. Pudgy Penguins. Now this is why meme coins get listed. 140 million in volume for a coin that's half the market cap as Caspa. That's why Caspa isn't listed. That's why Pudgy Penguins is listed, because it brings a volume. Like the volume that Pudgy Penguins has brought to Binance today. Okay. This is a cumulative 14, let's call it 17, and that's even a little light, 17.6. 17.6 million in volume is what Pudgy Penguins has brought today to Binance. If we come look at Casper's brought less volume than that to every exchange combined. So from a business decision, it makes a lot more sense to list Pudgy Penguins, and it's easier. It's I think they have the Solana listed, you know what I mean? And so, just another Sol coin, and so that's really the thing behind it. Unless you want to pay and help integrate the cost and provide liquidity, because what an exchange has to do, not only do they have to pay for like the engineering and stuff for a layer 1, remember it's a new layer 1 to be integrated, then you have to buy liquidity. And so it's not a cheap feat to integrate something, Look at the Pump Fund coin. This thing has zero merit, zero, has no connection to the actual Pump Fund platform. Absolutely 720 million market cap in vaporware. But it creates 104 million a day in volume. It's done Caspa's volume, more than Caspa's volume on Binance today, the Pump Fund coin. Exchanges make money on volume. And so, yeah, I do not think there's any coordinated effort, but that's what I think pretty much. And so we got an hour and a half before market close. We'll see what the Qs do. We need to take that from the tech, but you see the Qs turned around. Let's go look. Has Bitcoin turned around a little bit? I bet it probably has. My computer locked up. What's going on? Yeah, you see, this is just another part. So the Q's turned around, the NASDAQ. If we come to the hourly, the Q's turned around, Bitcoin turned around. Bitcoin trades like a tech stock, So if you're ever wondering why it's going down, look at the NASDAQ, look at the tech stocks. Even if you want to look at all-time highs, if we come over here and we compare the two, okay, let's come over here and let's pull up BTC right here. And I'll tell you the only difference I see in it. So here's August 2025. Where are we? So we hit a high down here, August 2025. Okay, this equates to the first BTC high right here. Okay, then BTC made a higher high October 2025. Okay, which is right around this same, where is it? Right here. Okay, so that was this first top for the Qs. The difference with this is I think something structural happened October 10th for crypto. I think market makers got hurt, things like that. That was a huge liquidation event. And it cascaded from there. I think if 1010 wouldn't have happened, we probably would have maybe hit 130 or something. But it's a tech stock essentially in the way that it trades. And so if you're ever wondering what BTC is doing, if you ever want to know what BTC is going to do, go look at NASDAQ futures and see how it's acting overnight and things like that. And so overall, we are red in the market. Oil is up. I don't see any sign that it's going to stop. The conflict with Iran comes down to one thing for the United States: oil. When U.S. controls the oil, along with Saudi Arabia, and if you go back a year and everything, Trump's became really good friends with Saudi, Qatar, those countries over there. And so it's all about oil, guys. 4D chess, and we just be told it's about, random things.
To put it mildly, a failing nation, and well, Cuba's doing very badly. They're failing. Cuba right now is, to put it mildly, a failing nation. And I've been hearing about Cuba. I said before, since I'm a little boy, I've been hearing about Cuba, and everybody wanted to change. And I can see that happening. Marco Rubio is dealing on it, and at a very high level. And, they have no money, they have no oil, they have no food. And it's really right now a nation in deep trouble, and they want our help.
They want our help, and we want their oil. Let's see. Like I said, payrolls tomorrow, guys. That's why the market's looking a little wonky. We'll see how it looks into close. Make sure you follow me over on X. If you don't, I'll make sure to keep you posted with everything going on. Put notifications on when we get job numbers, whatever we get. I'll be sure to post it on X. I always do. Try to keep you updated with everything financial news related. If you're over on YouTube, please subscribe. I would absolutely love to have you join the Finance Freeman family. And like I said, if you're looking for an exchange where I do all my trades and things like that, and I share them in my Discord, that I do it all over on Blofin. And shout out to Blofin for being the stream sponsor of Finance Freeman. But guys, we're going to wrap that up for today. We will be back tomorrow, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I love you all. Come with your questions. See you then.